So you've downloaded the Spoodle zip from the website. Now what? In the next video we're going to look at customizing and also some use cases, how it can be useful in different scenarios. If you've never seen the admin side of Moodle, then it's going to be an interesting look behind the curtain. If you are more familiar, it's going to be quite familiar. It is just a complete local copy of Moodle. So we'll start by unzipping the zip file. So inside you should find two files, a server folder full of all the relevant Moodle files, and a little exe file called click to start. And that little exe there, simple as can be, tries to start up all the relevant servers. So for a student, for a learner, they click one button, it launches everything up, and then launches into their default browser ready to be logged into. The important thing is to unzip it into the base directory of your computer. So we'll start not putting it on the flash drive directly, but onto the computer first. When we're done, we'll move it over to the flash drive. Just adds a bit of speed, a bit of reliability. So if your computer has a C drive, you can chuck that into the C drive, so you end up with C server as a folder and C click-to-start.exe. If, like this computer here, you've got several drives, it doesn't matter which you pick as long as it's in this base directory. So not inside another folder, but its own one. So F server in this case, and F click-to-start is what we should see once it finishes unzipping. Okay, having unzipped that, as before, it's in the base directory, so F server like we wanted, and F click to start. We can launch it through this click to start program, which will launch a very familiar little interface, just loading the server up. However, this time in the next screen, it'll automatically launch it for you into your default browser. So in this case, Firefox. Over here you can see within this little white window, a bit of a welcome message, how they can connect to it, and two options. The student leaves this open in the background, as do you while we're setting it up. If they need to open the site again, they can click 1 instead of typing this in. When they're finished, hit the number 2 to shut everything down safely. But we're just going to leave that open in the background. The first thing we're going to want to do is to log in. So what we're looking at here is the new Boost theme, which came in with Moodle 3.2 as the default theme. If you're used to previous themes, then this one will be mostly familiar, you'll notice as we go through it. It tends to remove a lot of the focus on the sidebars, the administration block that we're familiar with, and instead replace it with some tabs as we go into that instead of a drop-down. And this cog you'll find up the top corner of your courses that contains the more familiar things like edit settings and turn editing on. Okay, the very first thing we want to do is to remove some of these template images. So as you can see, just a little your site here, and up the top, your name here. We're going to change those now. So this one here is just the site name, the name of your Moodle, and this one here is just part of the description. So just to start with, we'll go up to the little cog, edit settings, which was formerly, if you're more familiar with the More theme or your own theme, in the side block here at the administration block. The site full name here. You can tack in the name of your company, organization, university, and so on. Save changes. And what you'll instantly see as you go back to the home page, got rid of one of those templating issues. The second one here is the blurb and the option to add a brief blurb. Adjust it however you like. So we'll start in a familiar sense. Come down here to the banner image. We'll select it here. And we will just change out the image here. Browse repository, find your own image of a similar size and put it in place. Scrolling down further, as in a normal course, you've got the option to change this and save. Next, we can change the theme color to match your branding a little bit and call that a day. Or if you've got your own theme that you've had built or a personal preference, we can add that in. Let's start with the color option first. So what we want to do to start with is go up to Site Administration, across to the Appearance tab. As before, if you're used to previous themes, this will all be in the side block. From Appearance, we can go to the Boost theme that we're currently using and adjust these settings around. Now brand coloring here, it's a little bit of trial and error. Instead of having a number of colors that we can choose from for different buttons, sidebars and so on, we pick a basic color and it adjusts that. So if we want something green, let's try this one out. I found with my first few guesses it made the text quite light, so I found a nice balanced orange just as a bit of a default. And here we go. So with our first guess, I think that's a pretty good green. It's nice, it's clear, it's readable. If we weren't happy, if we needed to tweak it a little bit, we can adjust, find a color we like, give it another shot, and wait it out. But let's stick with that for the moment. Now, what you'll notice is the orange here didn't change. That's just a bit of custom CSS. Typically, that just stays grey. We're going to go up to advanced settings. Here's some CSS we dropped in just to change the background color of this drawer. And it is a drawer if you're not familiar with Boost yet. This little button up here will toggle the left-hand column completely out of the way as needed. So let's have another stab. Let's go with our default green again. Here we go. So again, a little bit of trial and error. Generally the idea is to color it a little bit different of your live online Moodle. The idea is just to remind them that they're not in where they were previously. So I'm not too keen on this green. Let's use this little picker as a bit of a way of finding a nice shade. Something a bit lighter, a bit softer I think. We're going to save this one instead. Let's see how that goes. Now that turned out really well. I'm happy with that one. When we come back to home, you can see how the front page looks now. Now, if you're happy with that, we're going to shut it down as before. We hit 2 to stop it. We batch up these 2 files here as needed, just into a compressed zip file. And that's going to be our setup, ready to go copy without any units within it or without any courses in it. So as a student needs something, we'll unzip this new copy that has your theme in it, that looks the way you want, add in that student's courses, shut it down again and copy it over so we have a backup of their course as well, and they're good to go. The student side will be covered in the next video if all goes to plan. But, you want to keep customizing? Okay, themes. Do you have your own theme? Moodle has a huge database of plugins and themes. Let's have a look. Up the top of the Moodle plugin database, we can pick what type of plugin we're looking at. If you want to look at different activities, administration tools, editors, course formats. But for us, we want the theme, so let's have a look at a few themes. You may already have your own theme, but here are a few particularly useful ones. And you're welcome through a bit of trial and error just to try out different themes and see what works for you. You can note as you go in and click on some of them, you'll see which versions of Moodle they support. The Essential theme is quite a popular one, and it's already been updated to Moodle 3.3. So let's try this one out, just for the sake of demonstration. We're going to download a copy. That'll go into our Downloads folder. And this folder here needs to be copied into the Themes folder within Moodle. So if we go into Moodle, find the folder called Theme, and any themes we drag into here will then be installed. So let's try this one out. Returning back to Moodle, as we go into the administration, it should realize a new theme or a new plugin has been installed and pop up and let us know. If not, I found notifications in the site administration is a good way to toggle this check. New plugin has been detected and it's good to go. Let's update the database now to install it. With a new theme, we now have to go and set that theme. As you install new plugins, these options may come up first. If we're happy with the defaults, go for it. If you'd like to spend the time reading through them and adjusting to your own personal specifications, go for that as well. Now in this case, we're not too worried, but let's switch over to it. So let's roll down to the very bottom, save the changes. And with a new plugin, this will be in place automatically, ready to pick from. With something else like a theme, we've got to go over to the Appearance tab in the administration and select which theme we want to use. Across to Appearances, select a theme, here we've got our clean theme as part of the original base, the more theme we were adjusting before, and the new one we've just installed, Essential. So let's use this. There we go, looking more familiar. Next up, plugins. As mentioned, the plugin database also contains a lot of plugins. You may wish to search for a few familiar ones. Maybe you've got a few custom quiz question types. Maybe you're interested in the OU blog or the journal activity for reflective writing tasks. Let's grab that. If you use a certificate for awards, something like that, sure. You don't need everything. Those analytics plugins, not so much on a local level. Adobe Connect, no, they're not going to need that here either. But for the key ones, the essential ones that you do want to use, let's give one of these an install as well. Say it was the OU blog plugin. Scroll down till we find the one we want. Download a version. Now this version says it's available for Moodle 3.1, but let's see how we go. For an activity in Moodle, we'll want to put that into the mod folder. We'll drag him out. Over here. Back inside administration. Let's pull up our notifications. If your course contains a plugin that's not installed in this local Moodle, when you do the backup and restore in the next step, you'll find it'll skip over these activities. And if they're not something essential, that's not a big deal. But if it is something you're using as part of the course, say this blog activity we're installing now, if the plugin has been installed locally, it will come across just fine. And you continue on until you've got the essential plugins that are relevant. Next up, let's have a look at some settings. Now this is the kind of thing you want to just have a bit of a dig around with, see what works for you. Menu items is a really useful one, and that's a persistent bar up the top under theme settings. Persistent bar of quick links up the top. So custom menu items, you build it. So for a link up the top directly to an item, no dash. For a bit of a drop down, you want one dash. It would continue so far. Let's just use the defaults just as an example. You could build your own. If your live Moodle has its own, you would use them. So what we see here, from what we copied in, Moodle Community is the name of the column, and within those drop downs, we've got the particulars. And here's an external link just by itself, no dash, and nothing following on from it. That can be quite useful to move students around to different resources that you may have, your official website, library website, and so on. Going back to site administration, you can continue through these settings to see what you might like to change. Over in plugins, for example, come back to the text editors. If you prefer TinyMC as a default text editor, you can move it up into default position. If you want to control what appears on your editor, which buttons in which order they're in, you can continue to tweak the settings as needed. How about language packs? For English as a second language students, you've got the option to install a language that's relevant to that particular learner. Give them the option to toggle the menus between their local language and the one they're studying within. Give them more differentiated content. So here we go, language packs, Afrikaans, Dutch, and so on, and so on. Right down to English Pirates or a let's put a bit of French in there. All we need to do is install the language pack, and that will install locally. Having successfully installed the language pack, the menu we previously set up now has an extra column automatically, where we can toggle between English and the language installed. This won't change the content of your courses, but it will change all the menus, all the login menus, the top bars, and so on, just to make them feel more comfortable and more familiar. And then jump back to administration and just continue finding settings that may be more relevant for your learners if appropriate, or to match what's in your current environment. If you can't find a certain thing within the tabs, the search button up the top is incredibly useful to find what you want. If you think there might be a setting out there, punch in a keyword and see what comes up. Once you are happy, once you've got your themes, you've got it looking the way you want, you've got the relevant plugins, you've got the relevant settings that are useful for those learners. And again, we haven't customized the new theme completely yet. Once you do have it set up the way you want, what you do, as before, you'd log out, you'd shut the server down with the number 2, and because we've got it set up the way we want, we'd select the server folder, the click to start folder, and we make another backup. We've got it set up the way we want, no units yet, but all the theme, all the layout, all the settings are the way we want it. So we'll select these two files, the folder and the click to start exe file, and we'll just add them to a compressed zip Again, this will take a little bit of time. So keep this zip file safe. This is your theme set up blank Moodle with no courses. If you make changes later, back it up again. Make this new zip your go-to master copy. When it's needed, unzip it, add the courses you need, copy over to the USB, ship it out to the student. Repeat as needed per student. On updating, you can, if a new version comes out or an update version, you can update in the same way you normally would update a Moodle, but starting from scratch honestly seems cleaner. Jump back up to the top of the customizing video, the customizing section here, and just work your way back down. This is a good chance to make sure your plugins are up to date and make sure there's nothing left over from the previous version. Because we're adding new courses each time, it should be nice and clean to do it this way.